how can I tell if my child is feeling overwhelmed or sad during the holidays? And that is such an important question because catching the signs early can make a huge difference. There are things that can be indicators that children are having emotional challenges. That does not mean rush in and try to fix all their emotions. Emotions are not things to be fixed. It does not mean rush in and change everything, but it does mean here's some signs that your child may be feeling some of this emotional challenge and they may need some support. There are some key signs, and some of those signs are changes in behavior. That's one of the first ones. So let's just talk about that for a moment. Changes in behavior. If your child typically does different things throughout the day and they have been doing those things for a consistent basis and they enjoy doing those things, and you can just tell that they love this activity and they love doing this thing, and they also just they're always on time, and maybe they always take care of themselves, and then those things change in a big way. And there's a change in that behavior that is typically really predictable. It could be an indicator that there's some emotional challenge going on with your child. Because of the disrupted routines and because of other things that may have been going on, it could be that your child is feeling a big emotion and they will compensate for those big feelings by controlling the things that they feel they can control. And speaking of that control, another thing that you might see as a sign, a key indicator that your child is feeling an emotional challenge, especially during the holidays, is a big change in their appetite. If your child typically is one who finishes everything, and then you notice that they're only having a couple bites of food. And it's not that they don't like the foods that are there, they've just chosen to not eat for whatever reason. It could be that they're trying to control what they can control, or their brain. It's not an active thought. They're not consciously thinking, I'm going to control what I can control, so I'm going to eat less today. It's not like that. Their brain is saying, hey, here's something you can control. Hold on to that. Make sure you don't let go of that. You know what? The one thing you can do right now is eat less. On the flip side of that, if you have a child who typically can eat just some and they're okay, and then they are gorging themselves, they're just flooding themselves full of food, that could be another indicator that they're having an emotional challenge. Junk food especially does a lot of things in the brain, but one of them is that it releases a chemical called dopamine, and dopamine is depleted in people who are feeling difficult emotions at high levels. So sometimes the brain will say, hey, let's go eat some more of that cake. Let's go eat some more chips. Let's go eat some more of those foods that are quote unquote bad for you. That will help us to feel better, at least for a little while. It's another attempt at controlling something that is within the child's control. So if you see those big changes, it could be an indicator that your child is struggling. Another one is a change in sleep patterns. If your child typically sleeps all the way through the night and now they're waking up several times throughout the night, or I'm not saying that your child wakes up often, but maybe they're typically an early riser and now they are sleeping almost all the way through the day. There's a few different reasons for that. If your child is waking up several times throughout the night consistently, not just one or two nights, but for a couple of weeks, they're waking up several times throughout the night, and that's a change for them. It could be that their brain is under that pressure, under that stress, and it will wake itself up and say, oh, wait, oh, I just thought about something. Oh, we got to get going. We can't rest. We got to keep going. And it makes the child wake up. On the other side, if they sleep for a long time throughout the day, it could be that their brain has been under pressure for so long, it says, hey, we just need to tap out. We cannot do this anymore. And let me reiterate, that does not mean that one night or a couple of nights or one night a week that your child wakes up a few times throughout the night, or that one night a week your child sleeps for a long time, or if on the weekends they sleep later. That's not what I mean. But if your child has a significant shift in their sleep pattern, it could be an indicator that they are having an emotional challenge. Some less obvious indicators are things like increased sensitivity. If your child typically is one who can deal with some sarcasm and they deal with some, back and forth things where maybe you are saying silly things to each other, or maybe you're playing a game. This is one that I see often where I'll be playing a game with a child and they kind of give me some trash talk, and then I give it back and they can handle it. Well, if you typically do those things with your child and then all of a sudden they're doing it to you and you do it back to them and they just break out and they just start sobbing, it could be that their brain is under too much pressure and it says, oh, that was too much. That was too much this time. That does not mean trash talk your child more often. What I'm saying is, if it's part of your relationship already and they typically handle it well, and then all of a sudden they don't, it could be that increased sensitivity because the brain is saying, oh, I can't do that anymore. That was too much. Another one is increased clinginess. If your child is clinging to you more often, that is an indicator that your child is saying, hey, this is too much for me right now. I need you to be along with me. And not just in those shy moments where they're meeting the relatives that they haven't seen in a year or more, but if they are really clinging to you, it could be an indicator that they are saying, hey, this is too much for me right now. I need to go to someone who is close and comfortable. It could be at odd times, and it can be in different ways. Some kids hold on to your leg. Some kids just want to sit next to you. Some kids will just keep coming back and needing to check in with you. Some kids will be asking for you to do more for them or with them. That increased clinginess is an indicator that they are feeling some emotional disruption. And then another one is withdrawing from activities that they typically enjoy. I talked a little bit about some changes in behavior where maybe their pattern goes way off, or maybe they went from being a happy-go-lucky child to a very pessimistic child, and it seemed like it was just a switch that flipped overnight. This is another similar symptom, is withdrawing from activities that they typically enjoy. If your child loves doing something and then one day they wake up and it's not that they reject it and that they're mad at it. It's more just like, I don't think that that's going to be fun anymore. And then maybe you offer something else that they love to do and they're, I don't think that's going to be fun anymore. And it's not this boredom idea where it's like, oh no, that's not the one thing I want to do. It's them saying, that thing that used to bring me joy, I don't believe it's going to bring me joy anymore. And it's not this gradual decrease. It's really a switch that has been flipped. That can be an indicator that your child is struggling. Because, like I said earlier, in changes in appetite, your child's brain releases this chemical called dopamine. And if people feel big, difficult emotions for long periods of time, the brain doesn't produce as much dopamine, this reward, feel-good chemical. So it could be that children are under all that pressure and their brain is not releasing that dopamine like it typically does. And really their brain will start to say, nothing makes us feel that good anymore. And it's because that dopamine is not being released nearly as much. If children are withdrawing from those activities, it's an indicator that there could be an emotional challenge going on. It's important to pay attention to some of those subtle things and see if you can catch them early before they turn into something larger. If you can catch them early, or you can give them support, you can even just have a conversation about what's going on or what they might need. Maybe they've been at the family party for 4 hours and they say, oh, what I really need is a nap. And so you can find them a place to take a nap. Or maybe they say, oh, what I really need is to go home. I need to go home right now. When I was younger, my family and we had a signal where we could go and give the signal, and that meant, hey, I'm ready to go. And it doesn't mean we need to run out the door right now, but it does mean if we can wrap it up soon, that would be great. And so myself or my brothers could give the signal, and then my parents would acknowledge that they received the signal, and over the next bit of time, however long that was, they would begin to wind things down and we could leave. Maybe you need to come up with something like that for your child. If you can pay attention to those subtle things, then it won't result in larger things. And all that to say, if these things go on for a consistent period of time, if you're seeing major changes for at least 2 weeks of time, or this withdrawing of activities in pretty intense ways for several weeks, or maybe they're much more clingy, much more often, anything like that, or major changes in appetite or sleep patterns, then it's okay to also reach out for some professional help. Sometimes the holiday blues are more than just the holiday blues. If you can catch it early, sometimes it can prevent it from turning into something larger, but sometimes there's already something larger brewing underneath. And sometimes it's just hard to catch early, and it does grow. If that happens, there is no shame in reaching out for some help, getting your child some professional support so that they can work through those things and then thrive. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and let me know in the comments if you've noticed any of those signs in your child and how they showed up. Maybe it showed up differently for you and your family and your children. I'd love to know some of the things that you've seen, and if there was ever a way where you were able to get to it fast and resolve it.